I came across carers in Hertfordshire in 2002 when they came and did a listening to carers day in Bushey. And I then latched onto them, if you like, by attending the AGM, and then applied to be a carer trainer when they advertised for that. And I got myself onto various meetings, the Learning Disability Partnership Board in Hertfordshire and various other learning disability meetings. So they began to know me as much as I got to know them. And also I joined Hertfordshire Autistic Resource Centre as soon as he was diagnosed, so that you get a parent support group that way.
I was approached by, the first time I went by Liz, and that was to speak with ACE. They were doing a conference about carers and their roles and things like that. It was just like everybody's little different stories, and that was held, it was in London, but I can't remember the place it was. And then last year I went to the House of Lords because Sky was launching the Equal Opportunities for Carers, and I was asked to speak at that. So that was different. And just breakfast meetings. When the Primary Care Trust got the Carers Charter, I was asked to speak there as well. So I mean, with working there and, you know, with them getting the Carers Charter, it was like sort of intermingled.
I think there are a whole host of reasons why carers assessments don't always work out well or don't always get exercised very well. I think some of the reasons are to do with pressures upon the staff who are doing the assessment, so resource pressures, budget constraints. I think sometimes social workers, for instance, need more support from the management of their services to be able to do a good job as a carers assessor. But I think sometimes it's pressure on time, that actually to have a conversation with a carer that is really centred upon the carer actually takes more time than simply ticking boxes does. Or saying, well, we've got this, this and this, you know, you can have this, this or this. To be a bit more creative and to really listen takes a bit more time. So some of it probably is also a matter of training and of, you know, skill development.
Some of the challenges are time and resources, I would say. I'd say that by and large the people I work with are really, really open to carers issues and really aware, actually, but it is to do with people's time. People have limited amounts of time and limited resources.
For this individual carer, it wasn't about language or culture, but actually this situation was slightly tricky. The carer that was the main, there were actually two main carers, and most of the dialogue between adult care services was with the daughter, who actually, for her, language wasn't an issue. The other carer, who was the wife, who did have significant language needs, actually really hadn't been involved in any of that process, and one of the issues was for that worker to go back and speak to the wife as well, and to provide an interpreter as part of that process.
The paperwork at the carers assessment. Those of you who undertake carers assessments, the paperwork is useful. Sometimes it's sent out in advance, and that can save some time, but that needs to be judged. When you go through it, it's worth asking each question as you go along. There's a temptation sometimes to skip areas. If you skip certain questions because you look at me and you think you know the answers, I haven't had the opportunity to give you the answer for myself, which would empower me. And you might get the answer wrong. For example, I am an ethnic minority, I'm Irish.
In carrying out carers assessments, we do have a checklist for staff to refer to, which has some priority areas for consideration. That said, I do feel if that is shared with carers, they are often best placed to decide from that checklist what is most appropriate to them. And whilst we may think there's X number of points to go through, some carers need some of that, some need a lot more, and some may well need just one specific piece of information to carry on at their caring role at that particular time. So it is about saying this is the sort of things we can cover, but giving them the chance to feel listened to, because they're the experts and know what they're doing in their day-to-day caring.
We've used Carers Grant quite a lot. One lady, we used it for driving lessons because she felt, and well, we both felt that that was the way in which she could be more autonomous, and it was a piece of time and space for her once every week. We also have used it, people often cite it as being helpful in having holidays and space away from themselves.
And just to give one example of how flexibly you can work with Carers Grant, I'm aware of a Chinese carer who actually, once they'd had their carers assessment and through Carers Grant, were actually funded to have a television channel which was a Chinese television channel, and therefore allowed them to have an appropriate break because it met their cultural needs as well as their language needs.
The care package needed to be reviewed. It was a mixture of respite care, of overnight stays and some respite and some direct payments for daycare. What was really important was that the carer now needed to have that change in terms of a care service which reflected what her son needed, but actually what blocked those gaps of the time when she was going to be studying. And so the care package needed to be reconfigured. And the carer is very happy to reduce the number of respite care nights that were put in originally for her benefit and have those changed to cover the daytime times when she was having tuition. So the message is that it's not always about costing more money, it's actually about adjusting things and tweaking things for what's required now for the carer and the user.
A couple of examples of the force for change and what carers can achieve. In 2002 there was a parent carers group established in Rochdale, and one of the main things that they wanted was direct payments. Obviously Rochdale had an adult direct payments service, but parents said we want that for us and for our children, and they got it, and they got it a lot quicker. Not being disloyal to my authority, they got it a lot quicker than would have happened without their input. And there was a fantastic strategy which I would like to share with you that was actually in Contact a Family newsletter last summer, I think. One of the carers who's driven for direct payments sent a postcard to the head of Children's Services from a weekend away. It said, "Thank you. This is the first time I've been away for a weekend with my husband since our son was born 10 years ago. It wasn't possible without direct payments." I mean, how good is that for actually saying, you've given us what we were asking for, and yes, it's worked. I mean, it's just brilliant stuff.
For some, when we encourage staff to try and have a conversation with carers to find out what will most help them, carers can come up with usually the right sort of response that is stressing them out. For example, we had a carer whose husband, prior to him being unwell, had started decorating their bedroom. With his illness, he was not able to finish that, so we used a small amount of money, so it's not necessarily a costly exercise, to finish the decorating of that bedroom, and the carer felt a lot less stressed as a result. And I realise some authorities may well feel that we don't have the funds for that, but these solutions can be, and very often are, a small amount of money, and when compared to other traditional services such as home care that they may well not wish to take up or continue with, are a far cheaper option.
One of the things this family also fed back to me was the home care worker that came in to visit their father in the mornings had learnt 5 or 10 words in their father's language, which actually made them feel really valued and respected. One of their concerns prior to home care was that the workers weren't of the same ethnic background and wouldn't be able to speak the language, but what this actually highlighted was it wasn't actually about the ethnic background of the worker, it was about how creative they were and would they work flexibly and think outside of the box. And that's an example of good practice that actually all workers could take on.
One in 3 of us within our lifetime is likely to be a carer. So that involves a lot of people who are working. And it may be unexpected, and it may be short-term or it might be long-term. One of the things that carers say is that they find it quite difficult when they're actually in a job to be able to discuss sometimes with their manager what impact that actually has on their work. Carers, for example, try to minimise the effect of their caring role, sometimes by trying to do some extra hours when they can, so that they can take time off if they need to for hospital appointments or for perhaps cover when the person they care for is unwell. Now those things need to be negotiated with the manager. And some authorities and some employers are very good in terms of actually recognising that their employees need to do that, and there's a very good business case for them to do so. And so they've set up flexible working practices. Other authorities are a bit slower in terms of actually coming to recognise that that's going to be important for them, not only to keep their current workforce, but actually for the future, for future recruitment. We need carers and we need those skills in the workforce. Carers have been approaching the service in terms of actually asking what support they could have sometimes with negotiating with their managers. And we've been happy to do that in terms of actually suggesting that they look at their HR, their employment policies, and to discuss those with their manager. Another aspect that carers say they have a problem with is that sometimes their manager has had a very good relationship, leaves, and a new manager comes along, and they've lost all the goodwill that they've had. And so to get around this, a good idea for some employers is to actually organise some sort of agreement as part of perhaps an annual review process, which actually allows the carer to talk to their manager or their supervisor about the impact of their caring role and how best that they can meet their employer's requirements of them in the job, but also how the supervisor and manager can help them. On the basis that it's a good partnership and good understanding helps carers, and it helps them to carry on working and working effectively, which suits everybody.
I'd advise anybody to get in touch with the carers group or carers in Hertfordshire and talk to them about having a carers assessment, because they are very useful.
I think the top tips for the carers would be get all the information you can, use the services that are available. If there's help available, by all means take it with both hands and do something for yourself. That's what I found and learnt, that doing something myself, I've got a lot more confidence, and I can see a light at the end of the tunnel of maybe going back into paid work, which would be really, really enjoyable with something that I'm doing that I like.
Be persistent. Everything does seem to take time. Everything seems to be bureaucratic. I know because I work for the county council that all the social workers, OTs, whatever, are very busy, have very big caseloads. I mean, I know that. Yeah, I think I've got a pretty positive outcome now. I mean, at the moment we've got everything that we've asked for, although it may have taken a bit of time to get there. And yeah, I know where to go if things change and how to get more services if we need them. So yeah.
It's all about progression, isn't it? About empowering carers. So carers need their role models to say, well, like I said, she's done it, I can do it, just have a go.
I visited a carer who wanted more information about the services that we could provide for them to help them to carry on caring and balance that with working. And one of the things that they told me was, although the professional that went out to do their assessment had asked them about some of their caring responsibilities, they were unclear whether that was part of a formal carers assessment, and they hadn't received any of the paperwork through the post. So one of the things that I did on their behalf was to contact the social worker and ask them to go back to that individual carer and actually go through that whole process and give them further clarity. One of the issues between this carer and the professional was a breakdown in communication, from what I was told. The carer mentioned that on many occasions they tried to contact the worker to arrange a meeting to give them more information, but actually after 3 months that still hadn't taken place. So I got involved with that, and the actual meeting was arranged.
If I had to give some top tips to staff about how to do a carer's assessment and do it well, I would say, first of all, view it as a conversation with somebody who is doing a very valuable job and treat it like that. And don't see it as a tick box exercise. And secondly, anything that you say you will do in that conversation, make sure you do it.
I think it's not just Hertfordshire Adult Care Services, it's the health service. Every professional really needs to listen to what the families are saying, because actually my son was born in the October and I was telling the health visitor before that first Christmas that something was wrong. And we were finally assessed at 6 when I think they realised that I was not going away, so they better assess him. And we were blamed as parents. When he was finally diagnosed at 18 and I showed photographs, I was told that there was every indication of autism in those photographs. The way he would tug at you, the way he would do things, the way he played. Yes, the awareness wasn't there then that there is today, but if they'd listened to me, they'd have put all those pieces together and come up, as we did as parents, that something was wrong.
I feel the likes of social services, GPs, I think they need to start working closer with carers. And I also think they need to start listening to carers, because we feel we are the professionals ourselves, that we do this job and we learn through doing it.
Yes.
Doesn't matter what the caring issues are, the other issues are always there. So I've started to make a list of the points that I would like people to consider when they carry out an assessment. And due to my lateness, I'm not sure whether it's in the pack or not. No. I think you'll get to hear about them. To be diagnosed with autism, many of you will probably know you have to have a triad of impairment in community